It is an unsolved crime that horrified a nation. JonBenet Ramsey was murdered in her home 8 years ago this week, but the identity of her killer remains a mystery. Now some new details have emerged that might lead to a break in the investigation. Her father, John Ramsey, and the Ramsey's attorney, Lin Wood, are in Denver this morning. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning, Katie.
Mr. Ramsey, let me start with you. I know this is such a difficult time for you and your family because JonBenet was murdered, as I mentioned, 8 years ago at Christmas time. She would have been 14 had she not have been killed. How are you all holding up?
Well, we certainly miss her every day, and this is a particularly hard time for us because it brings back a lot of memories that were tough, but she's in our hearts, and we know she's there.
Lynn, I know that Denver District Attorney Mary Keenan took over the case a while ago, and you believe as a result of her input that both John and Patsy Ramsey were exonerated. Some legal experts don't necessarily agree. What causes you to say that they have been exonerated?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about it, Katie. Mary Keenan issued in April of 2003 a public statement in which she agreed with a federal judge ruling in Atlanta that stated that the weight of the evidence in this case established that an intruder murdered JonBenet. For a district attorney to issue that statement, a district attorney who is familiar with all of the evidence in the case, I think that is a very clear statement that this investigation has moved beyond John and Patsy Ramsey, and Mary Keenan is focusing on the intruder evidence to try to find the killer of this child.
Lynn, let's talk about the DNA evidence that was found in JonBenet's underwear. I know it took a while to isolate it. Tell me what the latest is on that, and do you believe that that would lead investigators to her killer?
I do think that the DNA evidence will solve this case, Katie. The DNA was found in 1997, but it was not fully tested until 1999. The results of that testing were ignored by the Boulder Police Department for years. In December of 2002, when Mary Keenan took this case away from the Boulder Police Department, she established as her #1 priority to get that DNA certified into the FBI national database. That was finally done in 2003, late in the year, and I believe that one day, hopefully in the near future, there's going to be a hit, a match, and I believe that will identify the killer of this child.
You know, I've covered this story for a long time, and many things have surfaced lately. The most interesting thing is that investigators that were hired by the Ramseys found that within a 2-mile radius of their home, 38 of their neighbors at the time of JonBenet's murder were registered sex offenders, and there had been over 100 burglaries in this neighborhood months before the murder. First of all, did you find that shocking? And second of all, why didn't this come to light sooner?
I have to tell you, Katie, not only is it shocking, it's reprehensible that the Boulder Police Department had knowledge of this information and failed for years to fully investigate the people in that neighborhood who were registered sex offenders, failed to follow up on this tremendous number of burglaries in the area. You had a case where what we're learning, and I think the public is learning with the passage of time, is that there was just a tremendous number of leads, a lot of potential suspects who were never investigated. Now Mary Keenan is following those leads and that evidence, and that's why I think this is, while it's a time, and I know for John it's a difficult time of the year for his family, it's also a time of hope, because the real breakthrough in this case was when Mary Keenan took the case over.
And so, Mr. Ramsey, are these 38 registered sex offenders now currently being investigated as well as the burglaries?
Well, I don't know specifically that, but what we do feel is that everything that can be done is being done by the current people that are working on the case. So we have great confidence that that the case is in good hands, and they'll do what it takes, and let's exhaust all options.
I was going to say, Mr. Ramsey, there was another interesting element to this mystery, and that is there was another intruder break-in involving a 12-year-old girl, which took place in a home near your former Boulder home a few months, I guess 9 months after JonBenet was murdered. There's some similarities to this case. Can you tell us more about what happened there?
Well, we only know what we read and have heard through the investigation that's going on, but basically a very similar situation where an intruder had come into the home, had been there for hours, the family came home, went to bed, and then were awakened by an intruder in their young daughter's bedroom. Fortunately, interrupted that, and the intruder fled. But very similar method of operation, it appeared to us as novices, but that was discounted and ignored by the police for years. So it certainly deserves looking at very seriously, and I think that's being done.
Let me ask you about your wife, Patsy. I know that her health had been a concern. She had a recurrence of ovarian cancer in January of 2002 after being in remission for 9 years. How is her health today, Mr. Ramsey?
Well, her health is good. She has actually had a recurrence every year since 2002, but fortunately they've been small spots and they've been dealt with, and she's doing great, and fortunately has been able to be a great encouragement to other women who are suffering with cancer and battling cancer, because it's not the death sentence that it used to be 20 years ago.
And finally, Mr. Ramsey, despite the fact that these new leads are being investigated, many people still believe that you and your wife, Patsy, are responsible for JonBenet's death. What would you say to them this morning?
Well, you know, Katie, two things were taken from us in 1996, our precious child and our family's honor. It's very difficult to recover your good name, regardless of what happens after it's taken. And we're struggling with that. And it's a challenge. And there's a line in Shakespeare that says, my life and my honor are intertwined, take away my honor and my life is done. And that's it's difficult for us, but we are individual people have been wonderful to us throughout this whole process, and that's where we gain our strength.
Well,
hey, Katie,
encouragement.
Tell those folks that think that John and Patsy were involved to take a look at the evidence, and they'll learn that they're wrong.
All right, Lin Wood and John Ramsey. Gentlemen, thanks so much.